expert astronomers, bloody performers of human sacrifices, builders of pyramids. The Maya are often talked about in some prominent aspect, but what do we really know about their culture? How did their domestic and religious life unfold? How did they conceive time? Did they really disappear, and why? Here, there are some lesser known aspects of the most fascinating of past civilizations. Chapter number 1. They were really thirsty for blood. Let's start by clarifying one of the most well-known aspects, that the Maya had a certain familiarity with sacrifices is well known. Less known are some bloody details. For example, the rite of tearing the victim's heart, always of high rank, never a peasant who was used for hard work, was typical of the post-classic period, that is after 980, and it was typical of the Mexican area. 4 priests placed the victim supine on a stone. Then they held it by the hands and feet, and at that point the chief officiant planted a flint knife under the poor man's left breast and extracted the heart dripping with blood, with which the idols representing the deities were sprinkled. Often the body was also skinned, and hands and feet were eaten. The priests also practiced self-sacrifice, piercing the genitals in a collective rite with a thread and a long thorn of agave. Chapter number 2. They ate a deity. Chapter number 2. They ate a deity. Corn was such an important part of their diet that the Maya began to worship it in the form of a god. The young human cocks, represented as adorned with corn on the cob. Man was also created of white and yellow corn, according to the sacred text Maya, Popol Vuh. The gods resorted to it after trying to mold us, unsuccessfully, with mud and wood. Chapter number 3. The Maya worshipped the four-legged gods. The Maya deified the animals of their habitat, the jaguar, the snake, the quetzal, which was a bird, the vulture, the owl, and the crocodile. The basic units of time were also deified, such as the sun, the moon, the day, the month, the stars, the planets. They were all divinities. In terms of their cosmology, they would conceive backups supporting the world, conceived as a rectangular platform. And then also, I think that the backups were in charge of each of the 13 heavens that rose above the world, and of the 9 strata of the lower world. Upper and lower worlds were represented by the steps of pyramids. Chapter number 4. They had a cyclical conception of time. There was no continuous progression of dates as in our current view, but at some point it started counting all over again. This is why the alleged Mayan prophecy of December 21st, 2012, in addition to not having come in true, would not have had any negative value. On the date the so-called long count ended, a cycle of 1,872,000 days, which is In years, 5,125 years. There were two other calendars, a sacred one of 260 days called Solkin, and a solar one of 365 days. Chapter number 5. They studied the stars, but they had no astronauts. Chapter number 6. Arranged marriages. The Maya considered it unbecoming to seek a wife or a husband in person. To find a soulmate, they relied on a set of very specific rules. It was considered incestuous to marry someone with the same surname, the sisters of the wives or the widows of the brothers. But one could marry between cousins. The marriages were arranged by a mediator, who also established the dowry and set the most favorable date for the wedding. The guests arrived at the bride's house, where a priest reaffirmed the terms of the agreement and blessed the bystanders. At that point, the groom moved to work at the bride's house. Getting divorced was easy. You just had to leave the marital home and divorce your partner, and women could do it too. We know that betrayal was widespread. If a man surprised his wife in the company of another, he was entitled to kill his rival. Chapter number 7. They loved extreme sports. Ulama was one of the most important and widespread religious manifestations in Mesoamerica, and the captain of the losers was beheaded, although some argue that it was not him beheaded, but it was the winning team who offered the sacrificial victim. Over time, the sacrifice aspect was lost, and the ball game became more and more a stadium event and an opportunity to place bets. Chapter number 8. Dirty Dancing Maya. They loved erotic dances. Those people held theatrical performances with dances and symbolic representations of hunting and war, in which males and females danced separately. Sometimes, however, it happened that they unite, and in a not exactly sober way. Chapter number 10. They encouraged homosexual relationships between males. The first conquistadores who came into contact with the Maya in the Yucatan reported that this population encouraged homosexual relationships between adolescent males to prevent boys from approaching virgins, compromising them before their marriage. Unlike the Aztecs of the Valley of Mexico and the Incas of Peru, the Maya also admitted homosexuality between adults. Chapter number 11. Women were important. Women played key roles in society. They cooked the food used in rituals and sacrifices. On some occasions, they could also attend public rites. Some inscriptions also testify to the role of Mayan women as political and warrior leaders. Chapter number 12. The glyphs, considered for a very long time only representations of divinities and dates, were instead a real logosyllabic writing, made up of signs that could represent both words with a complete meaning and syllables. It is thought that the symbols, which cover every Mayan monument, constituted a sort of lingua franca in Mesoamerica, compared to what Latin was in the Middle Ages for Europe. Most of the deciphered Mayan texts are in classical Chulti, a language widespread between 300 and 900 AD. Chapter number 12. Painful beauty rituals followed. The practice of deforming the skulls of newborns with a tight bandage until obtaining an elongated shape, perhaps a symbol of high social status, was quite widespread. Another recurring practice was to drill the front teeth and insert piercings of jade, hematite, and turquoise. Also, one more important thing is that they did not disdain the sauna called temazcal in the Yucatan Peninsula, which however had above all beneficial properties for health and a function of spiritual purification. Chapter number 14. We haven't finished discovering their cities yet. Some of these constructions are hidden by a dense and impenetrable blanket of jungle, such as the ruins of two ancient Mayan cities discovered in 2014 in the heart of the Yucatan Peninsula. Others have camouflaged in another way. Among these, there is the Mayan pyramid of Tonina, discovered in 2015 and until then mistaken for a natural hill. Chapter number 15. They perished from self-destruction. At the root of the end of the Maya, there were wars for resources. The decline began in the 8th century AD due to drought, famine, demographic collapses, and migration induced by climate change and overexploitation of the rainforest, possibly also by volcanic eruptions. The Maya did not have any dairy animals. They did not have large herbivores available, and the economy was mainly based on corn. The one built was for a fragile balance, equilibrium, marked by numerous and very bloody wars for resources. But chapter 16 is they are not entirely gone. Part of the Mayan traditions and genetic makeup lives on in the population of Latin America, particularly in Guatemala. And it is indeed in the jungle of Guatemala that there is a Mayan city of El Mirador, or whatever remains of El Mirador. El Mirador was the capital in 600 BC of the legendary kingdom of Can. The city was almost a metropolis for the time, 100,000 inhabitants in an area of 39 square kilometers. El Mirador was full of buildings of various sizes. The largest was the pyramid called La Danta that up here, which is 800 meters of basal diameter and 72 meters high. The Great Pyramid was built by thousands of workers between 300 and 100 BC. Finally, our chapter number 17 at this point would be the following: that Maya have created comics. It is a theory that belongs to Søren Wijkman, who is a researcher at the University of Leiden in the Netherlands, specialized in languages and Mesoamerican epigraphy. And basically, according to his interpretation, what we see depicted on some walls is the precursor of the modern graphic novel. And it's a way that was at the time understood, that had very solid references in the society, a way of representing language, movement, bad odors, bad smells, and jokes, pranks among people. And in a chapter of the book, The Visual Narrative Reader, he exposes the thesis that what we actually see is the precursor of the ancestor of our graphic novels. So guys, with that being said, that's it. We are finished for today. I want to say thank you to all my supporters out there. If you have enjoyed and if you have found this video helpful, please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. I am looking forward to reading all your comments, so please don't forget to comment below. Let us know what you found the most interesting chapter, the most interesting thing on the ancient Maya civilization, and we'll talk some more next time. Thank you again, and we'll talk soon. Bye.